Alright, see there, environmental influences on business. Guys, whenever we talk about environment, we only think that is our surrounding, only outside. No, environment is twin aspect. One is the surrounding that is there around us. Two is what is there within. Right, in the first line underline, environment is a sum total of what? Several underline external and internal forces. So whenever you are talking about environment, the two types, one is internal, that means what is there within the firm or the business. Two is external, which is there outside the firm. Right, guys, so we are discussing this whole concept in terms of business, right? A business firm or an organization or a business, by whatever name you can call it, firm, organization, business, you can write anything in that circle. There are two things here. Something that the firm has in itself and whatever is surrounding the firm. Right? So let's say if this is something that surrounds the firm, of course there are no boundaries like that. I'm just saying, so this is pretty much something that surrounds the firm, which is an environment. There's something inside this circle, which is the firm. What makes it? That is also environment. A sum total of two things, internal plus external. That's what environment is all about. Read there. Environment is a sum of external and internal forces. Right. Let's see. Couple of people have given very good definitions about what environment is. Right. Let's see what Barry Richmond has to say about environment. Environment factors or constraints are largely, if not totally, underline external and beyond the control, like government decisions, right? Economic conditions. These are all not in our control. But some of them are there which are in our control, but majority of them, that's what he says, largely, if not totally, are external and beyond the control of individual industrial enterprises and their managements. These are essentially the givers within which the firms and their management must operate in a specific country, and they vary often greatly from country to country. Does the environment vary from country to country? Yes, definitely. Why do you say that? As students of economics, you should know what an economy means, right? So the Indian economy is a mixed economy, right? The erstwhile USSR had a socialist economy. The US has a capitalist market, right? So different economies. Like how freedom is there in US to do business, that freedom and opportunity was not there in China or Russia as a socialist. Whatever the government has to say, you have to listen to that. In India, partly it's regulated by government and partly not. So it's a mixed economy. We adopt the best of the stories, right? So we have both. We have individual entrepreneurs trying to make their mark, and we have government also taking participation, right? Like there are some sectors where both government and private individuals both are participating. For example, tell me any industry where both are there. Telecommunication, the BSNL is also there, government ones, BSNL, MTNL, right? Apart from that, we have Airtel, Vodafone, Reliance, all the private operators. Is there any sector where only 100% of government participation is there? The Indian Railways, right? And rest of all the places, they have allowed for, some kind of a private participation, including certain areas like arms and ammunition, right? It's outsourced. But certain areas like defense, 100% is again in the control of government only, because it's a question of national safety and security, right? So like that, we need to understand in which economy we are, and it will definitely vary from country to country. Continue. The environment. Now let's say what Glueck and Josh, two people, William F. Glueck and Lawrence R. Josh, two people who have profounded theories. We will see them later also. Right now they have coined up a definition for environment. It's not really necessary to remember their names and the definition, just you need to understand what environment is all about, right? Guys, anything outside the firm, all the factors that are outside the firm, the environment includes factors outside the firm, underline factors outside the firm. The environment includes factors outside the firm which can lead to opportunities for or threats to the firm. Guys, what does environment offer you? It seems two things. Environment offers us two things. What are those? It can either offer you opportunities or it can also give you threats, right? Although there are many factors, the most important of those factors are socio-economic factors, cultural, values, beliefs, religious values, social conditions, superstitions. All these, do they affect a business or not? Very much. We will see how each factor affects little later. Right now we are being talking about socio-economic. Technological. Technology is something that changes very often, right? So that's a very influencing factor. Suppliers in this market, competitors and government, all these are what? Our surrounding, our environment, who can have a influence on what we do. Clear? Alright, moving forward. Business functions as part of the broader environment. So business, it functions as part of the broader environment. The inputs in the form of human, physical, financial and other related resources are drawn from the environment. Guys, tell me one thing. Where are you drawing all the resources, it seems? Physical, financial and other related resources. In the introduction that I told you, what are the 5 resources? Men, material, money, machinery, market. Where are all these drawn from? Right now what are they saying? They all are drawn from the environment. So guys, all the inputs are coming from where? All the inputs are coming from the environment. Very good. Now once you got all the inputs from the environment, what is your next job? To convert all the inputs into a meaningful output so that you can sell it back. Where will you sell back the output? Again back to environment only. Understood? So you draw resources from environment. What do you do? Manufacturing, processing, those are the names that we use. So I will draw raw material from environment, process that and then finished good will be ready. I will sell it again back to the environment. Check that out. Business functions as part of a broader environment. The inputs, the form of human, physical, financial and other related resources are drawn from the environment. The business converts these resources. The business converts these resources through various processes into outputs of products and services. The latter, that is the outputs, are partly exchanged with the external client groups like say customers. The exchange process brings in some surplus. That is what we already discussed in the beginning, like in objective of business. What is that? Profit is a surplus, right? That is why we are doing business work. The exchange process brings in some surplus to the business online, which could be stored and used for future growth and development. Future growth and development. Understood? It doesn't stop there. Just gives you a picture of what is happening. Guys, please read the next paragraph where it is talking about from where you are drawing the inputs, what you are doing with them and where you are giving back. Can you please read the next paragraph? Different organizations use different inputs, adopt different processes and produce different outputs. For example, an educational institution, right, what we are right now doing is to educate you on a particular topic and produce literate people. Educational institution produces literate people. Hospital provides health and medical services, right? So like that, different organizations do different work. Organizations depend on the external environment for the inputs required by them and for disposing their outputs in a mutually beneficial manner. So guys, where are you drawing inputs from? Inputs are coming from where? Environment. So from environment, you are drawing inputs. Inputs are then subject to manufacturing or processing. The resultant of which is what? Output. This output is again given to environment. So guys, on both ends we have environment, but these people who you are taking them and these people to whom you are giving are two different people. This could be in terms of suppliers and this could be in terms of customers. Are you understanding, guys? That's exactly what we are looking at in terms of converting inputs into outputs. You can see the diagram there. Put up lot of things there in the inputs. Human, physical, finance, technology, all those are the various inputs that you draw and then process them. That is transformation of input into output. And finally, you have either it's a product which comes as a final output or it could be a service that comes as a final output. Are you understanding, guys? So this is what we have in terms of what? What is the use of environment? Two things, internal and external, study and understanding of what these are. Now guys, tell me, how many factors are there in environment? How many factors are there in environment? Right? External environment, how many factors are there? So you can't start counting. There are many. Right? And we definitely don't know what all of those are. Maybe like if you tell socio-ecological, socio-cultural factors or political factors, legal factors, maybe you can name a few. They're there. But hidden forces from the environment are several. Basically, environment is such a complex stuff. Guys, can you just tell me one thing, that if I sit as a firm here to analyze what my environment is, do you think it's very easy for me to understand my environment? First of all, since it is a whiteboard, it is easy for me to draw the circle and say this is your environment, this is your circle. In a business, what is the circle that you can draw like that? Nothing that you can do about. Understood? So, figuring out what your environment could be, one of the very serious problems. Not just one, we have 3 problems in understanding our environment. So let's go ahead and discuss. Sir, what are those problems that we face in understanding what our environment is? Problems in understanding the environmental influences. Array, if they are 1 or 2, I can understand easily. If they are coming from several forces, how will I be able to understand? And chalo, if they are coming from several forces also, I am trying to understand. But when they are coming together. It is so complex. First of all, there are so many diverse factors are there that I am not able to understand. Then what are coming also, they are not very easy to understand. They are very complex. In one season they are behaving one way, another season they are behaving another way. Different things are going on in different ways. So it's not that easy for me to understand. Right? There are 3 problems, guys. Diversity, complexity and uncertainty. Guys, you believed that you understood of a factor. Right? You did something. Okay, chalo, there are diverse factors. They are very difficult to understand. But somehow you understood. Now that you understood that factor, do you think you thought that you understood? Will it remain same forever? Is there a possibility that it can change or not? The moment it changes, again there is the risk of not understanding. Right? So, it's something that is very important at this level to understand that environment is subject to a lot of changes. And it's not that easy to understand. Risk is involved. See there. The environment encapsulates many different influences. The difficulty is underlined in making sense of this diversity. Making sense of this diversity in a way which can contribute to strategic decision making. In a way which can contribute to strategic decision making. So I gave you a blank sheet and asked you to plot out all the factors in the environment. Will you be able to do that? It's impossible. See there. Listing all conceivable environmental influences underline may not be possible. Listing all, may be possible, but see there. Listing all of them may be possible, but it may not be of much of use. Why? Because you can't balance all of those anyway. And you can't any day conclude that that list is final. See there. Listing all conceivable environmental influences may be possible, but it may not be of much of use because no overall picture emerges of the really important influences. Right? Sit and plot all the environmental influences. I gave you a task like that. You have taken some blank sheets and you started plotting everything one by one. At the end of the day, you found some 500 feet. What is the point? All of them anyway don't affect. Right? Some are relevant to some industry, some are not relevant to some industry. Out of those, what will hit us? This is another separate exercise. Why should I first plot and then why should I do something like this again? Right? See there. Therefore, no overall picture emerges. The second difficulty is that uncertainty. What is uncertainty? Not being stable. It is subject to change. Managers typically claim that the pace of technological change and the speed of global communications mean more and more faster change than ever before. Whether or not the change in fact is faster now to hitherto is from the beginning. So if you compare from the beginning, obviously the change is much faster when compared to the past. And whether or not changes are more unpredictable, underline, it remains the case that while it is important to try and understand future external influences on organization, it is very difficult to do so. Guys, we are not God or astrologer to go and figure out what can happen in future. You expect something, there is no certainty to it. Anything can happen in the environment. So environment's feature number 2, the problem number 2 is what? It is very much uncertain. First thing, that there are so many number of factors, that is called diversity. Second problem is uncertainty. The third problem is, chalo, you battled out with diversity and found out all the factors. Do you think it's easy to understand all these factors? Sometimes it is not. See there. Managers are no different from other, see they are not super people, they are all normal human beings. So they don't have brains, that can figure out what can happen in future also. See there. Managers are no different from other individuals in a way to cope up with complexity. They tend to simplify such complexity by focusing on aspects of the environment which perhaps have been historically important or confirm prior views. These are not perverse managerial behaviors. Underline, they are the natural behavior of everyone. Guys, nobody is willfully doing and saying that it is very difficult. I don't understand. That's a normal point, right? They are the natural behavior of everyone faced with complexity. Arguably, one of the tasks of the strategic manager is to find ways and means to break out of oversimplification or bias in understanding of their environment, while still achieving useful and usable level of analysis. So that is the task of the manager. He should be able to figure out and find out and come with an idea of how to do it. Clear? So here what we are trying to understand is how important environment is to us. But it's not that easy to do that. What are the three problems that you face? Complexity, diversity and uncertainty. Complexity means what? Difficulty in understanding. Diversity means too many number of factors, and uncertainty means a possibility of a change. Sir, then tell me what to do. How to overcome these problems? I will give you 3 quick solutions to try and understand this problem. Try and understand and see if we can do something about it. And then later, we will try and sit and do a detailed study of what is environment. See, first we should be bothered about what factors will affect us. Then we can go and do a thorough study of that. The thorough study of that, we will do it in the next topic called environmental analysis, sitting and breaking down in detail. Right now, let's see where we need to concentrate. What is the framework within which we need to behave? See there. Framework to understand the environmental influences. Framework to understand environmental influences. In spite of problems in understanding business environment, underlying organization cannot ignore it. Hey, just because it is difficult, you can't ignore it. Yes or no? Just because people are failing, are they quitting the course and going? No, you can't ignore it like that. Yeah, okay, failure is a part of the story because you didn't do something well, you didn't get the result. So, you can't take it up as a activity. You have to see what is it. We will make an attempt to identify a framework for understanding the environment of organization. This will help us identifying the underlying key issues and finding ways of coping up with complexity. Underline, finding ways of coping up with complexity, and also assist in challenging managerial thinking. The first and foremost idea is stay in the center and see one round. Understand what is going on around you. Take a initial view. Underline, step number 1. Take an initial view of what? Of the factors that are surrounding you. Take an initial view of the nature of, right? Take an initial view of the nature of the organization, environment, in terms of underline how uncertain it is. Right? If you are a real estate business, is your environment highly unstable? Because it can go up, it can come down and all that. So first take an initial view of what it is and then check it out whether it is underlined relatively static. Static means what, guys? Fixed. Dynamic is the opposite of static, which means changing, that too fast. Fast changing things are called dynamism. Right? Static means what? Stable. So they are asking you that only. Is it relatively static or does it show signs of change? Right? And in what ways does it change? So they are just asking you a very simple question. Is it static or dynamic, the environment? Then, is it simple or complex to comprehend? Is it simple or complex to comprehend? This helps in deciding, underline what focus the rest of the analysis has to take. So before even going and doing a deep down analysis, what is the first step that you should do? Take a initial view and just understand what are the basic points. Guys, are you following? Take an initial view. Point number 2. The next step might be, now after taking an initial view, will you know all the factors? After taking an initial view, you took a white sheet and wrote down all the factors, correct? After taking an initial view, do you think all of those factors in that sheet will affect you? It may or may not be. Which one will affect how much? Should we audit all of these and find out which one will affect how much or not? Step number 2 is auditing all the environmental influences. The next step might be the audit of environmental influences. Here the aim is to identify, underline, which of the many different influences are, underline the word, likely to affect. Guys, you are not deciders. You can't tell it will affect or it won't affect. Which are likely to affect, you are supposed to figure out. Underline the term likely to affect the organization's development and performance. What are likely to affect the organization's performance? How do you do it? This is done by considering the way political, economic, social and technological influences to growing trends towards globalization or industries. It may also be helpful to construct pictures or scenarios of possible futures. To consider the extent to which strategies might need a change. Strategy always, where you need to change, how much you need to change. It's depending on the environment. If the environment changes, should you also change? Not necessarily. Right? Sometimes you might keep quiet. Sometimes you might have to change with the change in the environment. Sometimes you have to proceed with caution. How to respond to changes in environment? We will discuss in topic number 18 in the same chapter a little later. Right now, don't bother about. Right now, we are just analyzing and understanding what our environment is. What is the first step, guys? Take a initial view. What is step number 2? So you understood all the factors, take an initial view, and then what do? You audited those factors, and now do you have those factors that can critically affect you? Yes or no? So out of the first list of factors, did you, by doing the audit, filter out those factors that can affect you or not? Can we now focus on these factors that are going to directly affect us? Look at point number 3. Put a focus, explicit consideration. That means exclusivity. See there. The final step is to focus more towards an explicit consideration. Guys, will you focus on all factors or will you focus on those factors that are going to affect you deep down? That going to affect you straight away, right? Put more focus. Read there. The final step is to focus more towards an explicit consideration of the immediate environment of the organization. For example, it could be maybe studying the competitive arena in which the organization operates. In competitive environment that is around you, there are 5 different forces, right? Michael Porter, there's somebody like that who given us the 5 forces model. We will deal that little later. In competitive environment, we will study 5 force analysis that aims to identify the key forces at work in immediate or competitive environment and why they are significant There should be an attempt to understand, why the forces are of strategic importance. It is also required to analyze the organization's underlying competitive position, that is how it stands in relation to or when compared to the other organizations competing for the same resource or customers as itself. In our level, how many people are there along with us? Who are they? How they are competing? What they are doing? Right? You even focus that. So what are the 3 steps, guys? You face 3 problems. Problem of complexity, uncertainty and diversity. To overcome those 3 problems, what did they do? They asked you to follow 3 steps. What are the 3 steps? Take an initial view. Very good. Audit of the environmental influences and understand what is hitting us straight. And from all those that are hitting us, you will focus more on focus, that is explicit consideration, exclusive focus on those which are very immediate to you and which affect you directly. Understood? So that is the idea of doing an. So what is environment? It is internal, external. We saw that it gives opportunities and threats. We are taking inputs, converting them and transforming them into outputs and giving back them again into the environment. Environment is our surrounding, so we can't define that boundary. Okay, here, like I told you, this is board, so I drew. Otherwise, it's very difficult to find out what our environment is. There are n number of factors. That is why the problem number 1 in addressing this becomes what? Diversity. Then those are difficult to understand also. Complexity. And they keep changing very frequently also. That is what is called uncertainty. So complexity, diversity and uncertainty are the 3 problems. By taking an initial view of what the environment is, by understanding and auditing the influences that influence you and throwing focus explicitly on those areas which are directly going to affect you. By doing this, what do you get? You don't get anything new, you just get a better understanding of the environment in which you are and what are the factors that are going to affect us. Right? So this is what is about environment. What is environment, what are the contents of the environment and what is there in the environment. Then problems in understanding the environment and also the ways to overcome those and trying to give a framework. Right? The next concept we will deal is what? The most important concept, that is environmental analysis on what to do and how to do. We will see in our next class. Right? So please revise all these concepts that we discussed.